There she is. Hi,
Hi,
Gayatri.
hi.
Hi, I hope you
Am I
can hear me.
audible?
Yes, yes, you are. Yes, you are. Hi. So nice of you to
All
make
right.
the
Hi.
time. Hi. I know
No,
that
pleasure.
you are very busy working with the Paralympic team right now and quite tied up.
Yes.
But I was just telling everyone who's joined us that you've been a former international badminton player yourself and have represented India on the international stage. Gayatri is also the
Yeah.
founder of Samiksha Sports and Performance Psychology. And as a
Yes.
sports psychologist, she's worked with some of the top athletes of the country covering a range of sports. So, welcome once again, Gayatri.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks for having me today.
And she is open to take any and every question that any of you might have with regards to mental conditioning and sports psychology. In fact, Gayatri, while we were waiting to get started, we've already had some interesting questions which people have sent us in our questions chat box, and I'm just going to cut straight to it. What is the one of the questions is that how do athletes actually react to their initial sports psychology sessions or their initial sessions with you when you start working with them?
Sorry, I think I
Yeah,
lost
I'll just
network. Could you please
I'll just repeat the question. I was asking, how do athletes actually react in their initial sessions when you first start working with them? Is there some sort of an initial icebreaker that is usually needed?
Yeah, I think a lot depends upon what the athlete's perception is when they come in. So depending upon, whether they are actually coming in there to explore, uh, to solve a problem, to kind of get better, what they have heard, what they have been prepped up with, it really kind of varies across athletes with that sort of a mindset that they walk in with. But of course, the first part of meeting them is always about trying to establish rapport, trying to understand them, um, and also ensuring that they understand.
No, can't hear you.
Sorry, I was on mute, my mistake.
Okay.
I was saying that Ronak has asked another question of us, and he wants to know how can he actually make a career in sports psychology?
Right. So there's many ways to make a career in sports psychology. I think firstly you need to have a good bachelor's degree, which is in psychology. Then you do your master's either in uh, sports psychology or any other field of psychology. But you have to then move on to doing a master's in sports psychology. You have some courses in India which offer that. There's many colleges abroad, UK, US, Australia, Europe. There's plenty of colleges abroad who do an MSc in sports psychology, and that's typically what you need to study. But to pursue a career, you also need a lot of field experience. So once you have done your education, really, you need to know how to transfer that knowledge to the field, which is where you need to intern, shadow, do a lot of mentorship programs. So that's the kind of variety of stuff that you need to do to begin your practice or have a career within the field.
Right. I think I hope Ronak, you got your answer, got your question answered. Now, what made you take up sports psychology? When did you decide that post international badminton you want to focus on this area of expertise?
Yeah. No, I think I had a lot of experience of how the mind works and how it really helps to train your mind while I was playing myself. So, through that experience, I thought, okay, this is a field which was still very nascent in India. We didn't have so many qualified sports psychologists, and my interest was always there, and I had seen how it impacts performance. So, that with that in mind, I actually tried to pursue sports psychology, and I think, as I started to read and learn a lot more about it, it just got more interesting. I could sort of directly extrapolate a lot of that information that I was learning and understand how it is used within the context of sport. So I think that is where that journey really began.
Awesome. And I think one of the other things also that you yourself, having been a player, would notice is sports psychology, mental conditioning as a tool in your arsenal is something which is more accessible to athletes today. How differently do you see athletes responding to this versus your time when you yourself were a player? Did you have access to something like this while you were playing?
Yeah, I think I was fortunate to have access to something like this, but I think it was very different. Back then, you did not have many sports psychologists. I mean, even today there are a few, but back then it was much harder. Secondly, I think, a lot of the sports psychologists at that time hadn't maybe been involved in a lot of high level or elite level sport themselves. I've seen a lot of them, and I think in that journey I realized that, when someone has actually played elite level sport, the kind of inputs and influence that and impact that they have on you is very different than having never played sport. So I think those are two big things. Also, I think one of the major shift in paradigm is really that back then, a lot of times you did sports psychology because you had a problem. And today, I think more people are open. People want to develop mental strength, not just because there could be a problem, but also because just like they do physical training, they also want to do mental training. So, yeah, it was very, very different back then.
So I think another question, and I think which will be quite commonly assumed about sports psychology, is that only athletes at the elite level probably. Is that true that athletes only at the elite level require or can benefit from sports psychology and mental conditioning, or is that something that younger athletes can also actually look up to actually improve their game and bring out the best?
No, I think sports psychology for the elite is a myth, right? We encourage that children start very young, so as young as even 9 sometimes. So a lot of our young clients are like 9, 10 maybe. So it's good to start young. It's not something that is only for the elite. In fact, we encourage that you start at the grassroots. So the moment you start to play competitions, or the moment you start to actually do physical training, which is, apart from the technical skills that you're learning, is a good time to start mental training. And a lot of times, again, it is a perception that you may have spent a lot of years in training. It's not just the age, but even if you are playing, say, just district level or state level, even then I feel like, it's important to have the correct thought process. It's important to understand how to approach a situation, a game situation, a match situation, and how to handle failure, how to handle success, how to overcome the fear and the challenges that you face. So I think it's a myth really that sports psychology is for the elite. At least we see a lot of young clients in our practice. Also something we encourage widely, because a lot of our programs are focused on grassroots sport.
Superb. Another interesting question: when you were a player, what's your favorite memory or your favorite moment from the time that you used to play for India?
Wow. Okay. I think just the fact that you're not playing for yourself anymore. You have the privilege, I would say, of representing a huge nation, and also at the same time the pressure of delivering to their expectations. I think all of those moments are really memorable, because it's not like everybody gets to do it, and when you really are in that situation, it can feel very overwhelming. But sometimes I think looking back and understanding that you've had that privilege, and if you have done justice to it by working hard and then performing on that given day, I think it's total.
So what is another very interesting question which someone has sent us is that when an athlete goes out to play, obviously the team can't accompany the athlete, right? The support team can't accompany. So what is it that you tell the athlete when they're out there on their own and dealing with all of those moments on their own on the court or on the field?
I think there are many times now that the support team can actually accompany the athletes, so we don't face so many such challenges anymore. But from our philosophy really allows the child to become independent of us. So we encourage the athletes to we equip them and empower them and educate them with concepts where they understand what they're feeling and what they should do in those situations because they've done it regularly in practice. It then is almost automatic in a match. So that is how we really train them. Also, we do a lot of simulation training, so we try to create tough situations in a practice session and put them through that and ask them to apply some of the techniques that we've taught them so that they get the confidence to kind of use them at the necessary time and then kind of move them on into a match situation.
Right. Understood. I think because Olympics is the buzzword everywhere right now, we have a couple of questions on the Olympics also. One of the questions was your favorite moment so far from Tokyo Olympics.
I think it'll be hard to pick one, but I think excellent work on day one by Mirabai Chanu to kind of have the Indian flag rise up on the podium. So I think one of the the Olympics really began on a great note. I think amazing effort by both Lavlina and Sindhu, yesterday and 3 days back. And I think women's hockey today doing the same. So, overall, I feel like a lot of our athletes this year, whether it's been fencing, equestrian, even discussed through this evening, I think all of them have really put their heart into it. And that, for me, is the most satisfying thing to see. Like, none of them have gone into an Olympics to participate. They've all gone there with the belief that they could really win something. And I think that for Indian sport is a big, big change from maybe 3 or 4 Olympics ago.
Right. Another question that Vaibhav has just sent in is that the exits that we are seeing from the Indian athletes at, say, qualification stages or earlier stages of the competition right now, is that because of pressure or, what is it? How can mental conditioning probably play a role for those kind of situations when it comes to athletes?
Honestly, Olympics is a different ball game, right? You may do very well in a world championship, in an Asian championship. In Olympics, you are able to stay in a village which also houses the people you have grown up watching almost, right? So there's a lot of role models around you, a lot of expectations. So obviously the pressure can really kick in. But I feel like not all exits can be attributed to pressure. Obviously, there's an element of pressure, but many people can actually are equipped to deal with it or work on their mental skills to deal with that pressure. Almost we foresee that coming, right? As an athlete support team, we know what could potentially happen, and we try to kind of equip the athlete with what they need to do going there. So I would not say that. I would not say that all exits can be attributed to pressure, but it's sport at the end of the day. Everything really has to come together, and you have to be the better player. And even though you may do your best, a lot of times we saw in the athletics events where the Indians did clock their best timings or their best throws, but it was not enough. So I would say that Olympics again is it's different. The better player somehow always wins in sport. One has to win. And I think everything really has to come together on that particular day for you to pull off a performance. So yes,
Right.
the mental aspect is very, very important, maybe more important than anything else on that day, but I don't think it is the only thing that we can attribute early exits to.
Right. Another one from Vishnu Vardhan. He's just asked, he's just mentioned that we're seeing a lot of pullouts of elite players across sports. And what's your take on it?
So I think thanks for that question, Vishnu, first of all. I think what is important is to understand that these players are now verbalizing and being vocal about the mental health challenges that they are facing, giving it priority. I think one of the ways to deal with it is to start mental training early. Again, it's very neglected in the beginning span really of your sport journey, and if you start that young, then certain of these events could potentially be avoided. I feel one of the reasons why the pullout also is happening is that COVID has not been easy for a lot of us. A lot of trainings have been halted. As athletes, you've had to stay in bio bubbles, and that has had an impact no matter what anybody thinks. So I think the pullouts, I would say, even though, athletes have said what the mental aspect of those pullouts are, I think the number has gone up because now we are recognizing it. And I feel like they're able to say that verbally and,
Say that out loud,
put
yeah.
themselves through it. Whereas earlier on, they would have to cite an injury or just go there and play badly most times, or, pull out due to different reasons. But I think now times have changed. Mental health as a whole has got a lot of, has really become the buzzword since the pandemic. And I think that I would sort of say that has really helped people become more aware and be more
Right.
vocal about the mental struggles that they have.
Right. And in fact, I think what it also shows us is that even though you reach the pinnacle of your sporting achievement, you often need something like the mental strength and the grit to actually sustain and maybe even go through the eventual coming up of other athletes after you. You need that for your own sanity, maybe for lack of a better way of putting it. You need that support and that understanding and that conditioning to be able to see yourselves individually also through that, right? Which is what we also see sometimes with some of the elite athletes who've already achieved a lot, and then having to deal with the expectation at that level and what happens after you've achieved it. So how does that pan out for the ones who've already made it to the top?
I think, like it is said, getting to the top is easier, staying there is the harder part. So, I think, once the athlete is there is a lot more at stake. Mentally also, it's very demanding. There's a lot of things that you have to take care of, training, your body, your rankings, your endorsements, the media, your teams, your recovery. So there's a plethora of things that you really have to get going for yourself. So, at the top level, I think it becomes more and more mental really than anything else. And a lot of times, I think top level sport actually is about being able to switch on and switch off really at the right moment. So, being able to get into the role of a player and to perform your tasks, to be able to have a good team who supports, every other need that you need. Otherwise, a lot of times the athlete themselves has to do the ticketing, to sending the entries, to looking for the visas, collecting the papers. So, all of that can be a hassle. And, if you have a good team around you, then this unnecessary stress, which is not really related to performance, I think can be quickly overcome. So we have some great great organizations, associations, federations doing some good work within that space where they're able to now take on that stress that the athlete has outside of the playing field, really.
Right, and that's so important because these are those small areas which we don't generally even register as adding on to the stress. Great.
Yeah.
Another question which Atul has just sent in regarding Novak Djokovic's outburst at the end of the match. And him being one of the best in his field again, it sends a wrong signal to youngsters. And what's your take on that? That kind of an outburst.
Yeah, I think every player is emotional at the end of the day. I think it is about managing your nerves. Djokovic, in the past also has gone through a lot of emotional ups and downs. I think, we have seen him do that. We've seen him take breaks on the circuit. We've seen him be demotivated when he was world number one. So, I think he's another person who is very open about his mental struggles. And he also has always found a way to combat them, right? I think the end of the match, the banging of the racket on the net or throwing it off in the gallery, I think those are emotional outbursts, definitely wrong signals to young athletes. I don't think it's a great way of great mentorship, really, but what is important is that athletes look at it and say, okay, if I am I'm a good player, I'm a good athlete, do I want to be doing this? I think if they ask themselves that question, most often the answer that they will receive is a no. And if they don't want themselves to do this, then that's not really what they should be emulating. I think it's important that every young athlete who watches sport at the top level understands that even from the greatest, there are things that you learn and there are things that you don't learn. Everything cannot be copy pasted, right? You also have to, as young children, have the ability to pick the right stuff up and understand what is helpful. Okay, so there's a particular way in which Roger Federer maybe plays his backhand or Nadal plays his backhand, but every person, every style, everyone is different, and you have to know this may look very good or this may be the right thing, but is it the right thing for you? I think is an important question most young children today need to ask themselves.
Right, very true. I think being that impressionable is something which comes into play over here. Another question which Sanjana had sent us a few minutes ago is, which is the most common issue that you actually deal with when you are working with athletes? Maybe a very common mental block, or what is the most common area that you end up first having to work with any of the athletes?
I think two. One is being able to stay in the present, and the other is confidence. I think confidence, self-belief. So I think two big areas a lot of times. I think, sport makes us very result-oriented, and that becomes a very big challenge while in a performance setting. And again, confidence, keeps going up and down depending upon how you perform on that day. And, we really have to teach athletes how to feel confident. What are their sources of confidence? Where should they draw it from? So, yeah, those are the two top areas, right?
Right. Ujjwal has again sent in a question which is, which I think a lot of us must be quite happy to have as a question is, what was the change in the mindset of the women's hockey team today that led them to beat Australia in the quarterfinal match earlier today?
I think for me also to watch that was a really emotional journey. But I think one of the biggest changes that I have personally noticed is they've gone from not trying to lose to trying to win a match. And I think that approach really has helped what we saw today, great blocking, great goalkeeping. When the Australians were up there trying to push them, they kept going back at them instead of just defending plainly. And The
Right.
approach really, that the want to win, the want to be better, I think is really what has differentiated us this morning.
And yeah, I think that also kind of touches upon another question that had come in, that why is, only except for a few athletes, we don't see that hunger. But I think, kind of this answer took care of that also, that the want is very important and not wanting to lose, that mindset is important. Again, completely agree with Vishnuvardhan, where Joko is still human and, they're always under so much media scrutiny that's, I think, a whole different kind of mental preparation, that takes up that readiness to be able to deal with all of this plus your gameplay. So
Yeah,
completely agree.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, I think
Uh,
it's important to understand that, someone like a Djokovic, someone at that level really, has paparazzi, has following all throughout,
yeah.
right? So, they have to not just be perfect on the field, but they also have to be perfect off the field.
Yeah.
And that already is a lot of pressure. It's impossible to be the right person in everybody's eyes at all times, whether you're having a meal or going out with family or going on social media to say something. I think it's just a lot of pressure as elite athletes, and that is why I think again having a team is so much more important.
Super. I think we're almost, I think we've gone way over the time that we'd planned while talking about all of this. Just
Yeah.
one last question which has come in. Is meditation important for young athletes?
I would always rephrase that to meditation is it's a very useful tool. However, with young athletes, you have to be very careful when you introduce it, because they can get bored of it very quickly, and once they get bored of it, then they don't want to do it, and then it takes a lot of time for them to undo that belief that meditation is boring. So I think uh, introducing them simple breathing techniques which are fun, which they can do, which are not very heavy on them, is definitely very good.
Super. I think we've gone, like I said, we're almost up on the half an hour mark and we've gone way over what we'd planned. But some very good questions that have come in from all of you who've joined us today. Thank you so much, Gayatri, for taking the time and answering any and every question, literally, which has come your way, right from your badminton playing days till the Olympics until today, the matches that have unfolded today. Thanks a lot for being with us here. And we hope you had a good time as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and sending in all of your questions. And thanks a lot. And we'll be back soon with another session of Insta Live in a few days' time. Thanks again. Thanks, Gayatri. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye. Bye.
Bye. Take care.